You're about to listen to a Gaming Stooges podcast with your regularly scheduled Stooges.
I'm Jack.
The internet calls me Cloud.
And I'm Landon.
We hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and if you do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, following us on Twitch, or joining our Discord. Let's get on with the show.
Ooh, spooky.
Spookfest.
Everybody's in darkness.
It's Spookfest.
Spookfest.
Motherfucker.
Welcome to today's episode where, to celebrate Spookfest as we love to every year, we got the podcast in on the Spookfest. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we've done some spooky side discussions in the past, spooky levels in non-spooky games on our YouTube channel, but we're going to go full-blown spook in today's episode of the podcast, and we're going to talk about spooky games, horror games, just spooky atmospheres in games that may not necessarily be spooky. How you guys feel about spooky games?
I like some spooky games. Depending. How does Landon there he is. Oh god.
Ooh.
Hi, I've been here the whole time.
He has been.
Spooky's fine.
So, I'm not usually, the biggest into, horror games. I've played a couple of games that maybe have, a spooky vibe to them. I've never really been into them, though. I know you guys are big fans of spooky games, as we tend to play spooky games every single year for the channel. So
I would use large quotations over.
Yeah,
on over spooky. Yes, we tend to stretch the definition, right?
That is one of the yearly traditions of Spookfest, is stretching the definition of what truly defines a spooky game.
Yeah.
I don't need to say define twice, but we've played several Metroids for Spookfest. Yeah, that started with Clock Tower back in 2014 when I suggested to Justin, hey, you've played this game before. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you should let's play it for Halloween. And he's like, oh, okay. Back when we could actually get Justin to let's play games. And the thing about it was, I didn't have the idea until 2 days before Halloween, so it was very short notice. I uploaded an 8-minute Let's Play of The Letter, which is truly one of our greatest videos. It was a full game playthrough, at least at the time, before I reduxed it, and that went up. I don't even remember if it actually went up on Halloween, but the first year of Spookfest, it was kind of, a very hastily made up idea, but we've just kind of
done it ever since. Every year.
Just, unironically, I look forward to October, even more since starting Spookfest than I did before, because, it's just fun, just Let's Playing or streaming, spooky games, in the spirit of the holiday.
My favorite part is how it usually takes over more of September and November.
Yeah.
And so it's a 3-month process now.
It's almost like just the 1 month.
I will say the very next year was probably the single most organized this channel has ever been.
That is true.
From October 1st to October 31st of 2015, we had 3 Let's Plays. All 3 of them finished within the month, and we had a video for every single day of the week. It was the hardest we've probably ever worked at the channel. We did
do multi-uploads for Until Dawn. At the end, just to make sure it was done by the end of the month. But
it was Until Dawn, Luigi's Mansion, and then Justin did Resident Evil.
So this actually brings up a decent talking point then, and this is going to be more you guys talking than me, since I don't participate too much in Spook Fest, just because, like, the kind of vibes is just kind of like the kind of games I don't usually play all that much. But I did want to ask you, what are some of your favorite games that you've played for the Spook Fest event? There's been quite a bit at this point.
God, I don't know. My favorite game that I've played for Spookfest, I want to say, like, honestly, probably Night in the Woods. Like, not a spooky game at all. So, like, not even relevant to the topic at hand, but it's very much
It was played for Spookfest, though.
It was played for Spookfest because it's a very, like, fall Halloween-themed game. It's just not spooky. I mean, I guess there are spooky moments, but...
The whole back end.
Yeah, but like I love that game. I loved that Let's Play. But I guess as far as like the spooky games are concerned, shit, what did I do? I liked Limbo a lot, honestly.
I'll say like out of the games that you guys played, I think one of my favorite to follow is actually Inside.
Oh, yeah.
That was a really fun Let's Play.
I was just watching or rewatching that Let's Play the other day because I was sick in bed and I happened upon it. But yeah, no, Inside was great. Fucking weird ass game. Pretty spooky game, kinda. Yeah, I mean, like, it's very dystopian, and there are some, like, moments that are definitely make you shiver a little bit. Some certain enemies that'll get you.
Yeah, what about you, Landon?
I remember some games that I played. Remind me. So I let's see. The ones I've done for Spookfest.
A couple different Metroid games. You played The Last of Us.
The only Metroid I remember doing for Spookfest was Metroid 1.
Yeah.
That was the only Metroid that was for Spookfest.
Okay, I thought that you might have done. I thought that you might have done Metroid 2.
Metroid 2 was right before Spookfest that year.
Okay.
Yeah, I do remember that. So it was Until Dawn was my first one, and then I didn't do a Spookfest game. I think the next 2 years. Was that true?
Yeah. Because in 2016, I started BioShock, and Justin started Resident Evil 2. I would not finish BioShock until the year after, which was the only game we did for Spookfest in 2017. And Resident Evil 2 was never finished.
Right. And then the year after that was Dark Pictures. It was like the first Dark Pictures, Man of Medan, right?
Yep. I believe so, right?
2018?
Is that true?
No, I don't think...
Wait,
because we've done 4 Dark Pictures games, and 23, 22...
But did you do one each year consecutively, or was there a break year in between?
No, because I
was going to say,
The Last of Us and Metroid for 2.
I think that checks out. I was going to say, I think that checks out then, because I think did 20... Yeah, because if, like, 2018... Let's say the break year is 2020. Oh, we just did the 4th one this year, though. Yeah. So that would be 2 break years.
So
maybe the first one was 2019. Oh, if there is 2 break years, then yeah.
2018 was Metroid.
Okay.
2019 was Man of Medan.
Okay.
And then
that makes sense.
Was Little Hope after that, or was it The Last of Us?
The Last of Us was after that.
I was going to say, yeah, I remember Little Hope and House of Ashes being like back-to-back years.
Yeah. So this is a long way around to get to The Wolf Among Us has been my favorite.
Really?
No, I mean, that game was a lot of fun for
Good Spookfest
one
game.
of the streams. But I would say, like, as far as favorite game out of those, The Last of Us, it's a well-made game, and it was like, it was fun to watch Cloud's reaction to that. But all of the Dark Pictures games are like my favorite type of game to play for Spookfest.
Oh yeah,
just because they're pretty short. They are funny just because of you have to have a suspension of belief for what's happening most of the time, and they're really easy games to like make fun of.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Build off of that if you.
I was just gonna say to this day, it's not a Dark Pictures game, but it's made by the same people. Until Dawn is like probably my favorite Spookfest LP. Like, that was thoroughly entertaining from start to finish, and just a fun Let's Play. A lot of good moments.
So this some of the things you mentioned actually bring up a really good segue, but I wanted to ask, when it comes to games with like a spooky atmosphere or stretching the definition of spooky or just straight up horror games, stuff like that, like what do you guys particularly like that draws you into these kind of games particularly? Is there like Landon said, some games he likes the fact that, yes, they are supposed to be spooky, but they're kind of hammy, so you can make fun of them. So, like, that might be kind of one flavor of game that you like to pick up, but maybe you like something more atmospheric. Like, Jack, you've played, Limbo and Inside, which are more, surreal, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what would you guys would say is your preference?
Well, is it just for Spookfest, or is it, like, to play?
Just in general. Just in general, yeah. We're going to get into the wider topic of just spooky games now.
I don't know. I mean, like, the thing about horror, just as a genre, like, movies, I'm, like, unmovable. Like, very little in movies actually scares me. Like, very few, like, horror movies, like, actually fucking get to me. But when it comes to games, I'm kind of chicken shit, because, like, being the person in control is so much scarier than watching other people be in control of the situation. And I mean, like, I don't know. I don't particularly care for jump scares. Like, I just think they're at best
kind of cliche.
Funny. At best, they're funny. Which I will say, in terms of the Dark Pictures anthology, very funny jump scares. Like, consistently. But I don't know. I don't care for the fucking, like, the Zoomer type of horror games like Five Nights at Freddy's or fucking whatever the trendy like internet horror game like fucking Baldi's Basics or some shit. But like, I don't fucking care about those. But I don't know. I mean, like,
we can call them new age horror games.
New age.
Give them a little title to give them some sort of credence, I suppose.
But I do like games like Resident Evil 7, and I want to stream that one day because I think I could play it better if I was streaming it. But like, I can't play that game alone. It's like I get scared.
Speaking of playing those games alone, if you don't mind me cutting in. So I've mentioned I don't really play these games, but I do have a background with so my mom specifically, huge horror junkie. She watches like horror movies and will literally eat while watching like the most disgusting gory shit you've ever seen in your life. Completely immovable, like you said, Jack. But she's also played horror games because of that. And one series that was like really big for her was Silent Hill. And I never played any of them, but I've watched her and my uncle, I think, and my aunt, they're all siblings on that same side. I've watched them play it, especially my mom, and I've watched them play all of the first 4 games to some extent, and it's really fun to have watched her play, because I can't do that shit. Like, I would be too scared. But watching her go through it and just like with movies though, she's completely immovable. Like, she'll like get a little startled here or there, but she'll be like, she used to eat that shit up. Yeah. And the Silent Hill games are very unsettling sometimes.
Oh yeah. Silent Hill 2, classic. Maybe I'll stream it one day if you don't want to, Cloud.
I could do it. I have to get the games, and I was originally going to do the PS3 collection, but then I heard that's bad,
No.
so I'm not doing that.
That collection sucks ass.
Oh yeah, so I'm not touching it that way. So we'll see.
In terms of horror games, like stuff like Silent Hill 2 is like kind of more what I prefer. Just like the not very like in your face type of horror.
Yeah,
just like
it's more like a
just
subtle,
just
unsettling atmosphere.
yeah. I fuck
disturbing.
I fuck with a good atmosphere in video games, and like Silent Hill 2 has like some of the best atmosphere in any horror game, and that's why it's like one of the best, because it doesn't control very well, but like it kind of intentionally.
Darkest Mustang asked a good question. I actually don't know how many in our chat. I don't actually know how many Silent Hill games there are in total. I really only know like the first 4 games. So Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, and Silent Hill 4 The Room. I know that there's a few more, and a lot of them aren't particularly considered
There was a fucking
that good.
There was a Wii game, I think.
Yeah, I know there was a couple more at least.
The other ones past that were Origins, Homecoming, Shattered Memories, Downpour, Book of Memories, and then there was the canceled PT.
Right. Okay. So there's actually there's like more games that came after the main 4 than there were those 4.
It's about 10.
It's about even. It's about 10. Yeah. Okay.
I will say, like, since Landon mentioned it, I will bring this up as an opportunity to. I mean, I will always say that Konami, the biggest fuck up. One of the biggest fuck-ups in, like, video game history was Konami canceling PT, or Silent Hills, as it was supposed to be, because that was, like, huge. Everyone was talking about PT when it came out, and Konami was like, people don't want this. Quick, let's make Metal Gear Survive. I mean, that was way later, but, because, like, PT... like, kind of a geniusly made game, honestly, I mean, it's just a teaser, but there's so much detail put into that game, and it's so, like, it's a psychological type of horror. I mean, there are jump scares too, but not very many, and I don't know. Just pisses me off that they fucking canceled it.
Yeah, that they didn't actually finish it. It sucks. It really does. I've heard that some like PS4 units that like still have like the playable demo on the console, like they're pretty sought after now, because it's like because you can't even get it off the store. You can't even like download it anymore.
Yeah, they literally took it off the PlayStation Store like years ago.
But yeah, so there's about... That would have made does that count towards the 10 Silent Hill games, or is that like are you counting that separately, Landon?
PT, that would have counted towards it. So there's 9 games that you can actually play.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been the 10th one.
Yeah, PT was but because it had it did release, even though it was just a demo for a future game, it still.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no.
My turn, because you've talked for the last almost 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I mean,
the stream hasn't even been going for 20 minutes.
Pardon me for talking in this podcast
where we talk.
Okay, I'll go back to playing Dokkan Battle. That's fine.
Okay.
So, for like spooky games, I don't know. It's not the horror that gets me usually, it's the mechanics. If it sucks to play the game, then I usually don't want to play it. Like, for like Resident Evil 2, the remake, I don't care for Mr. X at all. So I played the whole game as like Leon up to the point where Mr. X becomes a factor of the game. And I was like, okay, I'm done. because it just becomes more frustrating to have to deal with him as an enemy than it is to like me to want to play the game and enjoy it. And it's not because he like is spooky. He just comes up and like breaks you in half, and then you game over.
I 100% agree with that. Like it is more scary, I guess, to deal with a like unmovable force that will come back over and over, but at the same time it's also really annoying. Like it gets to a point where it's just like, all right, come on, like we've been through this.
I'm trying to remember, there was this one game that I don't remember if it was done for Spookfest or if it was just a spooky game that was played for the channel, but I just remember I wasn't playing it, but I remember I was like in the Let's Play for it. I'm trying. You guys can keep talking though. I'm trying to see if I can find it.
But that's why I like playing, like, especially like the Dark Pictures and Until Dawn, like, because those games are like easy. Like
they're
I know that's like bad to say, but it's like I can beat them, and like I can spend like as much time as I want, like, to fuck around, and I can beat them and enjoy myself. And even if someone dies, like, the story still progresses. Like, even if I fuck up, quote unquote, like, I can still, like, I still beat the game if everyone dies. So, like, that's why I, like, enjoy playing those. But then, like, for, like, games I like, I still like playing, like, some of the Resident Evil games, and I like The Last of Us, and its sequel, just because those are fun games to play. And I guess they just don't have, like, something that I have to, like, run away from all the time.
Okay, that's a good point, because there are a lot, they do that quite a bit in games that are, like, meant to be, like, scary, where they'll make you, like, run away from something, and it's, like, a core thing, because it's a gimmick. Like, they like to have things chase you.
Speaking of that, remember the SAX from Metroid Fusion? Remember us reacting to it in the thumbnail?
Oh god.
Oh,
I remember
good.
that thumbnail. Okay, it's not.
First of all, okay, Metroid Fusion, like, good kind of horror.
That was
like
the other Metroid for Spookfest. I just didn't play it. Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, the SAX, like, you know, the way it's implemented in the game is, like, it's pretty spooky. The way it shows up, and it, like, you can't fucking kill it at all, and it will kill you in 2 seconds, and you need to get out of there until it's safe.
See, that's, we haven't done it for the channel, but Metroid Dread has those sections with the Emmy, if I remember right. Like, there's the robots that can insta-kill Samus, so you have to navigate certain parts of it. But when you die, you, like, load right up where the last time you, like, saved was. Or, like, when you, like, the last room you entered, basically. So it doesn't auto-save there. And so you don't lose much progress. It's not like, oh, the last time I, like, interacted with a typewriter was, I don't know, like, 15 minutes ago. I just lost all that progress. It's more like, oh, well, I'm just right back at the beginning and I can try again. So it really just comes down to game design and how frustrating a game becomes. But, like, atmosphere, like, for spooky games, atmosphere is 100%. Like, if it gets me into the mood, then that's what I want.
Yeah. Like,
what would you say is a good example of a game that, like, did that kind of thing for you? Just setting the right atmosphere.
For atmosphere?
I would say, honestly, Luigi's Mansion has a really good atmosphere. Like,
that is a good example.
It's very, like, dark and, like, I mean, like, it's a Mario game, but, like, it's dark and isolated, and you're in this big house that you gotta, you know, search all these rooms for ghosts, and, you know, it has a good atmosphere. It's not very scary. I mean, it's Luigi. But
it is, it is a game that it feels like a Mario game, but it feels like a horror Mario game.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
It goes to the level of what, like, a Mario game would do for horror, without, like, breaking that world. And so you can still, like, get into the atmosphere of that world that it's building and enjoy it.
Yeah.
For me, for a game that I really like the atmosphere of, we didn't do it for Spookfest, but, like, Super Metroid does a really good job of, like, making you feel isolated, which is, like, usually an aspect of horror, is isolation.
Yeah.
And it, like, does a good job at, like, making you feel like you are a bounty hunter on a mission. Makes you feel like Samus. But, so that's, like, a game that really does atmosphere well, and it does have, like, some spots where it's, like, a little, like, horror-ish, but that's mostly because of the isolation aspects of it, and there's a little bit of Metroid Prime 1 does that as well. And so both of those are really good examples of that.
I think BioShock is another good example.
BioShock is another good example.
Like, okay, BioShock has great atmosphere until you get into, like, an enemy encounter, because it's so loud. Like, it kind of takes you out of it a little bit, just because of, like, these machines that you have to kill, or the fucking Big Daddies, or what have you. They're really loud. And it's, like, not in a... It doesn't completely take me out of it, but it's just kind of like... I wish it was a little bit, you know, more subtle, I guess. I don't know. BioShock is still a great game. I love it. But
so I mentioned this earlier. I like the Resident Evil games, and a lot of them have pretty good atmospheres, even the more campier ones. So like Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, which I wouldn't like. They're horror games in the sense that there's big scary monsters that are trying to eat you and zombies, but they're not horror games in atmosphere. But the Resident Evil games that, like, nail it, like, there are parts of Resident Evil Revelations, anything that is, like, Jill on the cruise ship trying to deal with that is, like, really great. Resident Evil 2 has a really good atmosphere, and then Resident Evil 5, the DLC portion, was that Lost?
Oh, Lost in Nightmares.
Lost in Nightmares, yeah. That nails atmosphere really well.
Yeah,
okay.
I would agree.
I'm going through, like, all of my previous, like, ratings of games on GameSpot to see if, like, there's any games that I just am not remembering.
I'm surprised you were able to find those.
It still has my profile, and it still has all of my ratings somewhere on there, so I'm scrolling through. But no, without going too much into that, I did want to talk about, since Jack had talked about Silent Hill 2, I'd like to talk a little bit about Silent Hill 3, because that was a game that I had probably the most experience watching my mom play, and I think that game really nails the idea of atmosphere just incredibly well. Because, like, when you think about, like, horror games, you think of, like, unsettling locations. You think of what Landon said, like, just being able to make you feel alone and just, you know, just completely exposed to the elements around you. And Silent Hill 3 manages to do that without even going into the deeper end of what Silent Hill 3 will do. Because, like, you have, like, these different locations, like a hospital and an amusement park and stuff like that, and they're creepy because they're like covered in rust and, like, some blood, and it's very unsettling because you have just random monsters running around. And, like, if you have the radio, it'll have, like, this creepy signal that's constantly playing, and it just adds to that unsettling, just that vibe that it's going for. But then the locations also have, like, an alternative, I think they call it just alternate like reality version of that location, and it'll be like covered in blood and just like pulsating walls and floors and stuff like that. I remember the alternate hospital specifically when my mom was playing that, and like there was also an alternate, I think like a hotel, that were just really creepy because it almost looked like you were in this like literally just like this satanic building in the depths of hell, because the walls were like just like had like this like fleshy bloody color to them, and they were like moving around, and then like the floor was just all like old metal rusty floor covered in blood, so you had like the clanking sound, and just it's so scary, and it's like one of the reasons why like I can't play these games. But like in the moment watching my mom play, like it was definitely delivering on what the game was intending to do.
The radio bit reminds me of a game called Oxenfree, which is a fun like 2D puzzle platformer. Excuse me. Where a like group of friends end up on an island, and like there's ghost shenanigans. It's really good. I've wanted to do it for Spookfest, but there's been so many Supermassive games that have come out that I'm like, well, those are easy.
Gotta keep playing those.
That's what the people want. And by people, I mean me. I want to play those.
It's me. I'm people.
I'm people. I'm all people. Thank you. What are you going to say, Jack?
Shit, I was going to bring up something else, and I've lost my train of thought. On the topic of... I don't know.
Go ahead, say it.
No, I don't remember. I don't remember what I was going to say.
Damn it, Jack.
Just going to bring up the letter.
No.
And how much of a masterpiece that game is.
Please don't bring up the letter. Anything but the letter.
Oh, man. I feel like we truly carried that game's legacy.
No.
Legacy?
I don't know. I guess on the topic of atmosphere, if we're...
Yeah, just keep talking about games that are spooky. I'm trying to find an answer.
I know we mentioned them earlier, but Limbo and Inside both have like great atmospheres and like great visual storytelling with no dialogue. What were you gonna say, Cloud?
Finish up.
No, that's about all I was gonna say about
those
two.
One of the games that probably has the most unsettling atmosphere that I have personally played is, it's not in a series known for being horror, but they made a horror aspect with this specific game, which was Twisted Metal Black. And the game's plot basically revolves around the major big bad of the series, Calypso. He's like proposing to the people that he wants to have participate in the tournament, and most of them are like in an asylum, and like there's just a lot of like there's this, because of that alone, the fact that there's one of the major locations of the game is this asylum. It's just a lot of it is like darker and grittier than usual, because in the previous games they really like kind of played up the hamminess of like just the fact that these characters are all fighting each other, and like, you know, these crazy vehicles that just explode, and like, you know, it was supposed to be silly, but with Twisted Metal Black, like all of the locations that they go to are kind of like, you know, spooky or just unsettling. Like you have this town that's like, normally it would be like nice and bright and it's daytime, but no, now it's like, you know, really cloudy, and almost like if they had just added fog, I would think that it came right out of the first Silent Hill game. It's like that kind of atmosphere, and pretty much every character, they kind of go into the fact that like almost all of the characters participating in the tournament are not mentally well in the head, so they really do like this psychological horror aspect when they fused into the story. It's kind of crazy. I don't really know how best to describe it, but it's probably one of the most unsettling games that I've played because of that. You just have these characters who are...
It's just like the Scarecrow parts of Batman Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, I think that'd probably be a really good comparison.
Which That's another like Asylum game that's really well done. It's not like it plays up the spooky parts only really during the scarecrow parts. I feel.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a fun Asylum-based game.
Shit, I was going to bring something up and I forgot about it already.
You need to write this stuff down.
Oh, yeah. Really should. I feel like we're forgetting what truly the most spooky game in the history of Spookfest was. Muppet Monster Adventure.
Cloud.
Okay.
Can you defend yourself for playing that game for Spookfest?
Yeah.
Listen, the thing is that it's the opposite of like what really makes, because it's a cartoon game, but it's very what I think you would probably call like cliche cartoon horror kind of theme, where like it's supposed to be,
I love
spooky
that
for
shit,
the kids. It's supposed to be spooky for like kids, but at the same time, it's obviously being played for laughs. Like
he said, Luigi's Mansion is one of his favorite games. So
yeah,
true. So it's one of those kind of games, and it's like probably like. It's kind of weird. So like I liked it more for the Muppet aspect, but like it does play up a lot of those like cliche things for humor. Like you have werewolves, vampires. Like if you could think of it like being like a cliche, spooky thing that they like would kind of show in cartoons a lot. Like it's in there. I like it.
I unironically loved that Let's Play. Like I thought
it was a very fun Let's Play.
I thought that game was perfect for Spookfest. Like the first part, like when I finally like see gameplay, because I didn't intentionally like try to not spoil it for myself, but I never bothered to look anything up about it, even though you mentioned it like I think the year before, like during the Last of Us Let's Play. But
yeah.
When I first saw it, I'm like, oh, this rules actually. Like, yeah, it's Muppets, but it's like it's spooky, it's Halloween themed. Until it gets to the end of the game and the final world is the ice world for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, they still do a really good job of kind of like, they might be playing it for laughs and they might be playing it up, but like they really committed to the bit, because like even the main villain is like, he's like a baron, and he's just like he's the same kind of cliche spooky kind of character that like they would play for like a comedic horror sort of thing. So like they went all the way in. They had a random ice world at the end.
It was definitely my favorite Spyro game we played for the channel.
It is very much similar, because it is a 3D platformer, which actually interesting topic to go into. A lot of games that have horror or spooky elements, whether it's for comedic effect or whether it's for actually being like seriously atmospheric, genres when it comes to these games, they can be kind of diverse. Like they don't always hit on certain genres, and there is like a couple genres that they kind of stick to most often, but you'll see some games that go into different genres. Like typically you'll have like the kind of action adventure horror survival, or it's going to be like a horror survival. Like they literally have a horror genre of game because of them being very survival based nowadays. But I mean, Landon mentioned Metroid. You have your 2D Metroidvania style game.
Well, yeah,
that has that sort of
another big.
Yep.
Like it's
series
gothic horror is its setting.
Exactly. And Jack, you played quite a few like side scrolling games that were in that field, because I mean Night in the Woods, Inside, Limbo, those are all that kind of game where it's a 2D adventure game.
That's what Oxenfree and Oxenfree 2 are that type of game.
Yeah. To bring up an RPG. Yes. It's one that I want to play for the channel one day. I've never actually played it, but Costume Quest.
Yeah, that's been one that
Never heard of that one.
Thought of you playing like multiple years.
Like they're like short, like 5 to 6 hour RPGs where you're like, you play as like kids on Halloween, like wearing costumes and like fighting monsters and shit.
Basically, you get the abilities of whatever costume you have, and something's happened in town, and you have to like save the town as whatever.
Yeah. That, like, I think that would be a great Spookfest game. It would only be like 2 streams, but
RPGs aren't typically a genre that you usually see go into that territory either.
That's an untapped market. Come on.
Or at least not for like the full game. I mean, you'll typically have, RPGs that have a portion that will have like that sort of thing.
I mean, I guess to stretch what the definition of an RPG is, Bloodborne is kind of an RPG.
And it is an RPG. It is an action RPG. Souls games are RPGs. Yes.
Action RPGs, yeah.
But that's a pretty spooky game. Like slightly more so than any of the other Souls games. And it's the only one I've played to any decent extent. It's okay.
Okay. Actually, now that I think about it, I know this is going to be like probably a weird question to ask, and this is more for Landon since I know Landon's played more of these specific games. But would you say any of like the Shin Megami Tensei games ever have like that kind of like vibe at any points? Because I know that like, at least based on the art of some of the monsters, that they can kind of try to go for that occasionally. Obviously not like a whole game's worth.
I mean, kind of. They don't really lean too much into like the horror as like traditional horror. It's more like, oh, demons and angels are killing people. What up with that?
Yeah. It's more bleak than scary.
It's pretty bleak. Okay. I think the one that like leans into it probably the most as like having like horror aspects to it is SMT Strange Journey. Because that one, something's up with the world, and like there's like a negative field around Antarctica, and they send a team to go investigate, and when they get into there, they get into like a pocket dimension where like demons rule and shit, and like the crew like breaks down at some point, and like shit goes sideways for them a little bit. So that's like the one that has more of like a horror like undertone than I feel like any of the other ones I've played. Whereas all the other ones is just like bleak. Oh, demons. Fuck. God's angry again. Oh well.
It happens.
Yeah.
I do notice that like some like games that have demons and stuff like that, they can tread away or towards that sort of thing. And also I know that they have the SMT games and even Persona, although they don't really go into the horror aspect. And I think Silent Hill 3 also does this. There's like a connection to like tarot will sometimes be used to like add to that sort of atmosphere, just like the concept of tarot as like I don't know what it is with like these kind of games, but when they use that as an aspect of gameplay or story, it's like it can be infused with a sort of like, I don't know, like a spooky motif sometimes.
It's because set fate is fucking spooky, man. Can't change your own fate.
Yeah, man.
It's true.
Spooky as hell.
So we're kind of like leaning towards going into this topic, and we did a video 4 years ago, which, geez, I thought it was a little bit more recent than that, but apparently not. I mentioned at the beginning of the video the beginning of the podcast, that we had this video 4 years ago where we talked about levels in games that are not otherwise spooky. Now, not necessarily just specific levels, but do you guys have any games that you'd like to talk about where there's a portion of the game that kind of has those kind of cool, spooky vibes to them that you liked or disliked?
I'll bring one up that I Let's Played recently. Hat in Time. The Subcon Forest. Great World?
I don't know if you said this in the video, or if this is a different level, but it's probably that. Okay.
It was.
But
it was my number one.
He picked the mansion in Subcon Forest,
yeah.
But it's like, it is a level in that world.
Yeah, and the whole world is, like, what I'm about. Like, the whole spooky atmosphere, to say the word atmosphere for the 40th time in this podcast, of the Subcon Forest, it's like...
Don't make this into a drinking game.
It very much puts you... What the fuck are you whispering about, Landon?
Atmosphere.
Shut the fuck up. I don't know. It's just like... It's really immersive in, like, a kind of... like, kind of, you know, like, horror for kids kind of way. Until you get to the mansion level, and then it's actual horror. And it's fucking terrifying. Like, at least when you're playing it for the first time and you're not expecting it. But, yeah, no, it's a great world. I love it. I'm trying to think of other... What the fuck else did I say?
We mentioned a couple of instances in the video from a few years ago, but I kind of want to just kind of broaden the scope on them a little bit more. We did talk about a few settings in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and that and Majora's Mask. They're not like strictly trying to go for that, but they do have a lot of instances where they kind of capture that sort of thing pretty well, I would say. I don't know about Majora's Mask. I think someone else would probably be better off talking about Majora's Mask, but if I could talk about Ocarina of Time for a hot second, while Landon projectile vomits all over his monitor, probably. I know that the bottom of the well is an incredibly spooky and very atmospheric area. You've got the Shadow Temple, which I was always scared of the wall masters that will come grab you while you're in the Shadow Temple, because already you have to do what the bottom of the well you were doing, which is use like the lens of truth to see where you're going, and then you just have like this wall that these hands that just kind of try to grab you out of nowhere, so that's pretty spooky. And just in general, I know there's heavy use of fog in certain areas of the game. It doesn't do, you know, the spooky thing all of the time. Like the Fire Temple has got a little bit of spookiness to it. Water Temple, not so much. Forest Temple, not so much. It's a little bit more mystical kind of feeling. Spirit Temple, not really. Inside Jabu Jabu's belly, that could be kind of spooky. I mean, being inside of a giant monster's digestive system is a little weird. But, you know, it varies. But I do like the fact that they managed to make it not jarring when you're switching between those kind of atmospheres. Again, don't make this into a drinking game, please. You are not going to survive.
Al said Paper Mario Chapter 3, great example.
Yeah, that's the whole Boo Mansion, and then guy who eats booze.
Chapter 4 from Thousand Year Door.
Yeah.
Classic.
All of Paper Mario Sticker Store.
True. Fucking Chapter 7. Was it Chapter 7? From Super Paper Mario, or at least the underwear,
yeah,
as it's called. I mean, I've brought this up in the video as well, but shout out to the music for the River Twigs bed in Super Paper Mario, which is actual nightmare music in a children's video game. Like I'm surprised they put that in. It's like, I remember hearing that for the first time when I was like 12, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, We haven't actually talked enough about how music can be made to like, and that was another thing that I put in my notes. Like, we've talked about games as a whole, but is there any like specific musical pieces that really kind of stuck with you?
Oh, I know one. Pumpkin Hill. You know me, the fighting freak Knuckles, and we at Pumpkin Hill. You ready?
Okay, of
they
course.
got Larry.
It's good.
They got Larry.
They got Larry.
Rip Larry, man. Rip Larry.
Fucking rip Larry. God, that is a good question though. I'm trying to think of an actual answer.
While you think about it, Landon, did you want to talk about Majora's Mask, or Jack, would you rather talk about Majora's Mask a little bit?
Landon can, well, I think, if he wants to.
Oh, great. What about Majora's Mask? What do you want me to say about Majora's Mask?
Just like parts
Spooky.
of Majora's Mask that really like had a good kind of spooky atmosphere that you think were
Most of
good,
the
well
game,
executed.
Most of it, because that game, more so than most Zeldas, revolves around death. The
Exactly,
concept of death.
True.
So like it is
Inherently spooky.
Yeah, it's inherently more like unsettling than most of the games. Like the first mask you get is a Deku Nut kid that like is supposed to die, is supposed to have been dead, and like you meet that Deku kid's like father later, and mentions them. You like the Goron that you inherit dies. The Zoro dies. So, like, yeah, there's, like, a bunch of, like... It's all revolves around death, so, like, most of the game is... I mean, literally, like, the moon's crashing into you. Like, so...
Exactly, yeah.
It's a game
You have this impending doom.
Yeah, it's a game about death, and, like, the whole game is, like pushing that on you. And it's probably the Zelda... This is why we played it for Spookfest. But it was, like, it's the most, like... the spookiest Zelda you can get. The next one would be Twilight Princess, but that one I would say less so, just because it doesn't revolve around, I think, the same concepts as much.
Yeah.
Where it's just trying to be like a normal Zelda with Twilight filter.
We discovered the color gray.
Yeah.
No, it's a good example. Jack, did you come up with thoughts on music stuff, or
thoughts on music stuff? That's what I do.
Say the ASX theme.
The what?
The SAX.
The SAX theme. Okay.
Yeah. I don't. What did I say?
Yeah, that's a good one.
ASX.
ASX.
Oh man.
AXS.
XAS.
I know. So I mentioned. So I did talk Pokemon during the video that we did, and I went with the Ruins of Alph at the time, and that's still like it's still got like the spooky aspect to, like, especially because of like the unknown, like you can tune into like the radio and they have like this creepy like alien signal. That's cool and all. I'd rather people just go listen to that video if you want to hear me talk about that specifically. But I mean, just kind of to throw out a very common one, the Lavender Town and the Pokemon Tower in the first Pokemon games does a pretty good job of being pretty spooky and unsettling, especially because the music is, I don't know if it's just because of the hardware, because of the limited sound font, and it just came out that way, but it's got a spooky, vibe to it, especially because, as Landon had mentioned, one of the things that can, make a game just have a moment that's innately unsettling or spooky is just the concepts that they are reaching for, which in this case, death. You're in a town that is centered around this tower that is a grave site, so it's pretty interesting how games will be able to kind of just push harder into an aspect like that and kind of make the atmosphere, again, drinking game, just kind of come together like that.
Okay, another answer. I was gonna say real answer, but I'd be lying. Fucking Hang Castle from Sonic Heroes. Great fucking song.
It is a really fun, spooky level with a good song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of got the Muppet Monster Adventure style of, cool spooky stuff.
Exactly.
No, I like that too.
I do love the Boo House theme from Super Mario World. I think that one's a classic.
I was gonna say the Boo Houses have been like a staple in a lot of 2D Mario games for quite a long time now and it all started with Mario World.
Yeah.
That was the first game to do that.
Fucking what's another goddamn game that I've Let's Played for this goddamn channel that I can pick a song from?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a
I
game
know, I'm
Let's
just
Play.
struggling to think of something off the top of my head.
So, one, while he's looking through past Let's Plays, and while he's doing that, he should go watch the Great Ace Attorney VODs.
I should go watch the Great Ace Attorney VODs.
Yeah, you should turn off your Discord and just go watch the Great Ace Attorney VODs, folks.
Alright, I'll see you guys later.
I think, and I'm gonna bring back this one, Resident Evil. Any like the save room themes are really nice, but it's more so because it's a break from the tension, which is another thing you like need in those style games, is like a break from tension, and the music really reflects that. So those usually end up staying with me, like any of the typewriter theme or like the save room themes that those games have, the safe house themes, that type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
for sure.
Revelations has a really good one. Resident Evil 1 has a really good one. As long as you're not playing the director's cut, because the music in that version of the game is dog shit.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I still can't find the frickin' game that I was trying to find that we did. It was like a one-off. It was either like, because I think it was like a DLC campaign to a game.
Are you talking about... You're probably talking about Lost in Nightmares for Resident Evil 5. That's probably what you're thinking about.
Yes! Yes, that's it. Okay. That's what I was thinking.
Should have just asked the question to the audience.
Should have.
Yeah.
But I do remember there was like some like really freaking fucked up looking monsters and shit in the areas. Who played that game for the channel?
It was Jack and I. We were playing that because it was a co-op game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So yeah, and remember here. Let's play the memory game. You remember that one enemy that like kept going back and forth, and like we were calling him special or something.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Oh god.
He was the. I don't know if I should say it on the podcast, but
Definitely not. No.
he was our special little guy.
Yeah.
And he just wouldn't go underneath the spike trap when we wanted him to. He just turned around, lost interest in me.
It was funny. I loved it.
It was truly an all-time moment in GamingStooges.
One of the moments of all time.
Twitch question from Darkest Mustard. Speaking of Resident Evil games, I haven't played 7 or Village yet. Wanted to know if any of those are good to play.
I have not played Village. 7 is good. Very spooky.
I was gonna say I've heard a lot of good things about Resident Evil 7 since it was kind of returning to an older style in some aspects.
And Owl mentions that one boss in Resident Evil 5 you kill with the flamethrower. Dark mode. Was that the boss we got stuck on, Jack?
In 5?
Oh, no.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
that one, it's the flame... I think it's the flame room is what he means. Like, you, like, trap them in the flame room. It was, like, the first boss.
No, he's talking about the one that you, like, killed with the flamethrower. I know exactly what he's talking about. It's later in the game.
So
I was going to say...
got stuck
Yes,
on?
it was.
Okay.
We got stuck on that forever.
I'm going to say Flame Room. That just reminds me of the streams that we just did for Dark Pictures Anthology.
Yeah. So
because there was a Flame Room with one of the characters.
Yeah, basically it was that concept, but you could like trap a high level enemy in it when it's like it's like one of the first bosses in Resident Evil 5 that you have to deal with.
Okay.
But if you kill it with that, then you lose out on like good loot. Like it has like a good drop. But you don't have to waste a fuck ton of resources trying to kill it. Yeah. But it's like that concept of a flame room. But then yeah, there's that fucking other boss. Resident Evil 5. That was definitely a game we played.
Yeah. A horror game? I
was going to say, you'd probably consider like Resident Evil 5 to be more of just kind of like just an action survival game. Not necessarily horror, but has some spooky, moments, but kind of just more of an action sort of game.
5 and 6 are both fun action romps with zombies, in quotes.
Yeah.
Featured in them, and less so like spooky games.
How many games have used zombies at this point?
Every single game.
Just every single game has zombies in it.
Every video game.
Every video game has a zombie in it. Fight me. Prove me wrong.
That's like the popular thing now. Zombies.
It's difficult to bring up just one song in particular from the game, but Silent Hill 2's entire soundtrack, just to bring that game up again, is fucking phenomenal. Like every song, like every track used in that game, like suits the mood perfectly, and like is a good way of like not conveying emotion, but like you know how you're supposed to feel just from the music cues, and it's like A+ soundtrack, honestly.
And another thing that we kind of like talked about, I just wanted to bring up, I just realized now when it comes to like styles of like horror, whether it's a serious attempt or more like a played for laughs sort of thing, like you get sci-fi horror, you have more like kind of just like a psychological one, you've got like gothic style, you've got a bunch of different ones. Is there like a certain preference that you guys have, or is it really just kind of comes down to just how the game puts everything together more than anything?
I mean, that what you just said is true.
Thing you just said.
Yeah.
That one.
But like in terms of like if I had to pick a favorite style of horror, I fucking love gothic horror. Like I'm a sucker for that, dark brooding, like old-timey church shit.
Okay.
So it sounds like someone's just going to play through every single Castlevania game.
Oh boy. I don't want to play Simon's Quest.
Alright, you can skip that one.
I will say if I were to try to get into like those kind of games more often, I'd probably be more into like psychological horror kind of stuff, because like I don't know, those tend to really actually get me. So I think those kind of that those are pretty cool.
Let's see. Style of horror that I like.
I think like sorry, you can go ahead. I was just gonna keep talking if you were still thinking.
I am still thinking.
Okay. I mean, like, I'm not super picky about, like, style of horror. I feel like it's all about execution. But, like, I think I just have I like the gothic shit, but also, like, I like a good sci-fi horror as well. Psychological horror is always good. It really just comes down to how, like, it's executed. And does it unsettle me? Does it scare me even? Does it make me quake in my boots? That's what matters.
Yeah, I guess if the game has if it just hits the notes really well, especially if like it's trying to make you feel isolated, that's what I usually like in horror games the most. Like for a concept. Yeah.
And I noticed that like sci-fi subgenre can do that quite often, since they just kind of throw you out into the vacuum of space, so it's a little easier to kind of isolate you when you don't have a smaller scope. You have a bigger scope to work with, so you can kind of...
That shit in real life fucking freaks me out. Like the idea of going up into space and then just whoops.
Oh yeah.
I'm just floating now forever until I suffocate.
That's terrifying.
Like, yeah.
So can we get a game like No Man's Sky but horror themed? Just make every planet you go to
Cloud.
Creepy as shit.
Cloud, it's called Dead Space.
Shit, you're right. Damn it.
Good games, by the way. At least the first two.
Man, I really want to play Alan Wake. Here's another game I want to play for the channel is Alan Wake, because I have
Fuck yeah.
Alan Wake Remastered. But it I say that because we were talking about like that type of thing, and I was like, ooh, I really like Control, and that in itself is not like specifically like spooky, but like it's like the psychological horror that X-Files would tend to do with like aliens existing.
Okay.
And like items being possessed by just like the supernatural. So I really like Control for that.
That's another subgenre I wasn't thinking of. Supernatural is another one.
Yeah, Supernatural. So I guess my real answer is Supernatural. Supernatural and like sci-fi, because like Metroid is like a huge one that I like love Metroid.
Bread and butter.
And it is sci-fi through and through, even though not all of the games are like super spooky. It is like, yeah, it is a good one. But yeah, I want to try to do Alan Wake for like a supernatural horror. But once again, we have to wait. Gotta play the quarry.
We're contractually obligated by Supermassive Games.
I am, at least.
We're still waiting on that paycheck, by the way.
Yeah.
Supermassive Games.
Come on, Supermassive
if you're
Games.
listening.
Speaking of paychecks,
Paychecks. AKA
Patreon. Bang,
So,
bang, bang.
we have a Patreon. If you haven't been to it, patreon.com/GamingStooges. We've got several tiers. There's a $3 tier, $6 tier, $10 tier. The $6 tier gives you exclusive content every month. We've been uploading stuff out the first of every month. Currently doing a Pathfinder campaign, but we've also got a couple tier list videos as well. We've also got a game collection video where we show off a bunch of stuff we have. And we're going to have a bunch more stuff down the pipeline in the future as well. You can get a shout out every time we do podcasts and stuff like that if you are at our $10 tier, which the tiers, those are subject to change in the future. If you hear this like a year or two in the future, the tiers might be different. It could be like, maybe there's 4 tiers, maybe there's like 3 tiers, and like the prices change. We don't know. It depends on where we're going to be at in the future. And of course, on top of the Patreon, we do, of course, have all of our other social medias, which we'll be mentioning at the end of the video with our outro, as we always do. Landon's got some Tillamook. Malted moo shake? That's not spooky.
Yeah, it is.
Why isn't there spooky ice cream?
It's the spookiest ice cream I have on hand.
Al mentioned spooky visual novels.
AKA Ghost Trick.
Ghost Trick.
Yeah.
Watch the Ghost Trick VODs, baby.
That, is probably been my favorite game that we've streamed for Spookfest.
Really?
Mostly because we do, stupid voices for
the
every
stupid
single
voices.
character.
It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Malted moo shake. That does sound good. Yeah, no, I've been loving Ghost Trick so far. It's not even remotely a spooky game. It's just about dead people. So it's like vaguely spooky. Just the concept of death. But there is the one that we have not mentioned.
The one?
The one.
I think he means the Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Doki Doki.
It's like so this is the only game that one of the only games that I actually have a lot of experience with that you could say is in that sort of genre. And that's definitely got some like psychological horror aspects to it.
Yeah.
It's really like it's too story driven for me to try to want to spoil anything major. But I mean, it definitely does a good job of when it does the first twist on you, kind of like a quarter of the way through the game or a third of the way through the game. It really
it's like half.
It really like throws you for a loop.
You know, that didn't stop you from ruining the experience for me. And by talking about the game before I ever had a chance to even decide if I ever wanted to play it, so.
I mean, I had I know that.
Let's be real, Landon. Were you going to?
I don't know. I never got the chance to think about
it. Okay, but we're doing a podcast, and this is going to be like something that's going to be out on like a billion different platforms, so I don't want to make the same mistake twice. Just because I did it one time, Landon, doesn't mean that I'm going to do it every single time. I'm learning my lessons.
One time.
Okay.
But I do want it. So if I could continue, I don't want. Like is it really halfway through? Because it feels like it's a little earlier than halfway through. But it definitely gets progressively worse. I think it depends on how much of the game you end up doing.
There are 3 acts, and the
first act is kind of the longest, but like it's not by too much.
It's like a 6-hour game, and I would say the first act is like 3 hours.
I don't remember if I spent 3 whole hours on it, but you might be right. It's been a hot minute, but yeah.
Let me check out
it definitely is the kind of game that it's like a subversive, since it doesn't start off like that, and then it just it throws you that hook, and then it just gets progressively worse and worse from there until it really takes a turn, and it's just one of those like, you know, kind of just weird, creepy, unsettling things that kind of like messes with your head. It is very psychologically driven.
Yeah. It's like almost a spoiler. I mean, like everyone knows at this point that it's a horror game, so that's saying that isn't really a spoiler, but like when it first came out, there's no indication. The idea like is to just go in knowing as little as possible, because like my friend, like, I had only known about it, like, in passing. Like, I had seen, like, I don't know, maybe a fan art of one of the characters on Twitter or something. But, like, my friend one day sat me down, and he's like, we're going to play Doki Doki Literature Club. And I'm like, okay. And we laughed and joked about it for, like, however long the first, like, chunk of the game took. And then, once it hits the point that it gets to, I'm not going to be any more specific than that, because saying anything beyond that is kind of saying too much. But it fucked with me, like, a lot, actually. Like, it's pretty extreme in the way that it was presented. And, yeah, it was, like, I don't know. I think part of that might be, and I'm going to say this as vaguely as possible, but I think when a game manages to kind of like mess with interfaces that should not be that are like kind of sacred to a video game, and kind of like really turn them on their head, like that can be spooky in and of itself. It's not just that, but it's also like the topic at hand being like what it is, and what it be, what it do, and what it do. But yeah, that's about all I'll say on it. I have played through the entire game, and it's, you know, it's a pretty fun time.
On that note, I do want to ask one last question. Are there any games where you've played that, whether or not they had a spooky element to them, they messed with like the interface in a way that was kind of spooky? Because like, you know, sometimes they'll like interact with the things like the UI or your controls in a way that the game typically is not meant to do.
Raiden, unplug the game console now. Turn off the system.
Yeah, I was going to say Metal Gear has probably the most
noteworthy,
bizarro kind of moments with that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, Metal Gear Psycho Mantis. And he talks about the games that you have on your fucking memory card. Eternal Darkness has one of the more notable examples of that I can think of, where like the game literally just like blue screens and restarts, and like it shows like your save data being deleted and some shit.
That's
and
so like, messed up.
It's so, yeah, no, it's like, it's very like, I mean, you know, it's trying to fuck with the player in like that sort of way.
I would be fucked up if I saw that.
That game came out in 2003, so that's like
20
pretty ahead of its time in
ago.
terms of like the way it fucks with you. That game needs a fucking re-release, honestly. Nintendo, that's your game. Do it.
Anything from you to add, Landon?
I mean, those are the most notable examples of games that fuck or use the UI.
Yeah, I can't think of any other specific examples.
I mean, I can think of a few, but most of those aren't really doing anything spooky or horror themed or even just unsettling. It's just kind of like, it's atmospheric, but not in the kind of way that like is pertinent to this podcast topic. So not really something I could add.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right.
Did we have anything else we wanted to bring up on this topic, or are we want to close up and
I have a very important
do our
question.
usual?
Yes,
what is your guys' take on pumpkin spice?
Pumpkin spice, like as a flavor?
Yeah. Because
here's
it's Spookfest, so we have to talk about.
See, here's it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was literally thinking that to myself earlier. I think pumpkin spice as a flavor is kind of overrated. I love pumpkin pie. Like, I will fuck up a piece of pumpkin pie. But pumpkin, like, flavored shit, like, it's all right. Like, I think it's pretty good. Like, I'll eat it, but it's not, like, amazing.
Yeah. It's okay. When it comes to like beverages, because I know a lot of, you know, people get, you know, pumpkin spice lattes and shit like that. I don't know. When it comes to like holiday centric drinks, I'm more of like an apple cider kind of guy, or like an eggnog kind of guy.
I like apple cider a hell of a lot more than pumpkin spice shit for Halloween. Or like just the fall season in general.
Okay.
Are you going to answer your own question, Landon?
What? Oh, I was drinking...
Are you gathering data?
I'm gathering data for myself, but to answer my question, I was drinking a pumpkin spice tea during this video. I've had pumpkin spice bagels for breakfast pretty much every single day. I had a pumpkin 3-layer cream slice of pie while I was at Sherry's on Saturday.
So I take it
you like pumpkin spice.
See, I like Jack, love pumpkin pie. I like, even as a kid, like I asked for it for my birthday dessert. Do you know how hard that is?
Yeah, they're not even remotely in season.
Yeah.
And at the end of April, 6 months away from Halloween.
Yeah. But, they would still make it for me. So, there you go.
Hell yeah.
But that's because that's how much I like it. And, most people... So, I don't do lattes or coffee. So, like, that whole, like, basic bitch, like, pumpkin spice latte during the fall season, like, I didn't care about that because that's not me. But I'll consume anything that says pumpkin in it. Give it to me.
Okay, I will say, like, pumpkin cake and pumpkin, like, cupcakes, that shit is delicious. With, like, cream cheese.
Yeah.
So good.
I've had some really good pumpkin cookies with cream cheese. Basically...
Ooh.
Yeah. Basically, I like cream cheese, so... put it on...
Hell yeah.
Put it on stuff for me.
I'll agree with that.
All right. So, is there let's kind of wrap things up here. Is there any new stuff that you'd like to talk about that's new from since the last podcast we did, or just recent topics that you'd like to touch on and talk about real quick? Just kind of go over.
Not a whole lot has been going on with me. I went to a couple of shows.
As you do.
As I do. As I tend to. I got sick fairly recently. Feeling a little better now. Several weeks ago, right after the last podcast right before the last podcast, excuse me, was when Landon saw Chris Farron, and I saw him right after the last podcast.
No, we talked about... I thought we talked about you seeing him. That might have been... I feel like...
That might have been a stream.
I don't know.
I don't remember. Either way,
Perfect set.
Perfect set from Chris Farron. Yeah, not a whole lot. My girlfriend and I have been watching Castlevania on Netflix, which fucking rules, by the way. I watched the first season back when it first came out, and I thought that was sick, but it was only 4 episodes at the time, so I kind of forgot about it for a long time, and then I look and suddenly, there's like 50 episodes now. Hell yeah. So we've watched the first 2 seasons, and I highly recommend. Great show. Extremely violent. Great, spooky October type show.
Okay. Anything else to add?
Not for stuff that I've been up to.
Any
as
recent
far as
topic that's come up that you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about in a stream or anything like that?
Happy Halloween. When is this going to be going up? Like October 27th or something?
Yeah, it's going to be like a couple days out from Halloween, basically.
Yeah, I mean, close enough. I mean, this will be
Halloween.
This will be the last podcast before Halloween. So happy Halloween. Enjoy the holiday. It's on a Tuesday this year, which sucks ass. But
it's a random day for it to fall on.
It's the worst. Halloween is the best on a Saturday, like every year. But yeah, be safe, and party responsibly.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything substantially new on my end. I think probably the only major thing is that we are trying to move some stuff around over here because my girlfriend's going to be getting some of the small furniture and some other stuff that was at her old place moved in. So she cleaned up this room that you can't see it because we're doing spooky lighting, but like the behind me is like all cleaned out from what was there, and now it's like all over like this one side of the room instead, so that space behind is gonna have like a bookcase and possibly a couple other things. But yeah, just kind of reorganizing ourselves. Other than that, I haven't really been doing too much, just kind of been working. There was between, I'm pretty sure after the last podcast we did, but before this one, there was the announcement that and this is, I guess it's spooky in some way, the 3DS and Wii U are going to be completely stripped of their online functionality starting next year.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Those were some real ones. But because of that, even though it was announced that Pokemon Bank is literally the one exception of what's not getting taken down, they did kind of like say, hey, make sure you move all your stuff up sooner rather than later. So I've been playing through Pokemon Gold because I randomly decided I wanted to do like a virtual console living dex because I already have like half of the stuff there. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that. I want a bunch of Pokemon with a little Game Boy icon. You get a little Game Boy icon if you bring a Pokemon up from the virtual console games. Which
that's cute.
I'm sure the 3DSs with the virtual console titles are gonna be going up in price and value, kind of like the same way that the PS4s with PT on them are gonna be sought after by collectors, because they have just the same reason that any device with like media that you can't get on there anymore. But it's gonna be an interesting time for the market once all of that closes up next year. And then I've been rewatching Yu-Gi-Oh! Like the original show, but subbed. I don't know why it possessed me to start watching that, but I'm like going through the Duelist Kingdom arc. It goes by a lot faster than I forgot. I forgot that the show like really goes through its arcs like super fast up until like late into Battle City, because they went too fast now to make a whole fill arc. But that's, nothing really else new on my end. Landon.
Hi, that's me. Let's see, we went and saw Big D in the kids' table.
Hell yeah.
But because I was deadly sick, I did not stick around to see Mustard Plug.
Not hell yeah.
But I did buy 3 of their albums.
Hell yeah.
So I essentially got my Mustard Plug, show. It's in my car now. Nice. Let's see, what else? I guess the biggest thing that I've done since was the Portland Gaming Retro Expo was this past weekend. So went out on Sunday to that. I showed off what I got on our Discord, but I can go through it really quick for the hooligans that are not part of our Discord.
Join the Discord server.
Join the fucking Discord. Please.
I got a couple Dragon Ball games that I didn't have. I got the last Famicom one. It's one of the Gokuden games. It's the Frieza arc one. I got Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulation for the DS and Super Mario 64 DS, which I had a friend who was like, I'm gonna go through and because he lost a bunch of stuff, or he lost access to some of his stuff, so he is going back through and getting some old stuff that he used to have but he doesn't anymore. And so there was a lot of DS stuff, and I realized, because he found a copy of 64 DS, and I was like, I actually don't own that game. So I picked it up for $25.
It's not bad.
No, I thought it was a pretty good price. I got a Black Label Wind Waker, which was I had a player's choice before, so now all of my Zeldas match. I got GT Transformation and Cloud's favorite Dragon Ball game.
No.
Yeah, I know it's your favorite.
No, it's not.
And then from the limited run booth, unfortunately,
I like how for the podcast you didn't even bother mentioning the title of the game. You just said it's my favorite.
Yes, that's how we're doing it.
You don't want to tell us the name of the game, Landon?
Oh no,
you already know what it is.
Yeah,
listen to our Dragon Ball podcast.
We do talk about the game in the Dragon Ball podcast because it is in fact a Dragon Ball game.
I mean, you can say it if you want, Cloud, but I don't want to.
It's Dragon Ball Z Taiketsu.
I'm gonna have to bleep that shit out. My God.
If you don't remember to bleep out what I just said, I'll be disappointed.
Don't worry, I'll bleep it out with I don't know, a swear word. Can you just say fuck really quick for me?
Dragon Ball Z, fuck!
There we go.
Fuck.
And then from the limited run booth, so I didn't get to go Saturday, so they sold out of all the River City Girl 2 PAX variant.
No.
Like Switch copies, and they didn't have like a regular copy there, so unfortunately I did not get River City Girls 2, but I got the Valis 1 and 2 collection, and then one of my actually it's Pixel, because long ago I broke my copy of Majora's Mask, so she sold me her copy of Majora's Mask for 64. So now I have a complete Zelda collection again.
Nice.
Yeah. And then most importantly, I got some new dice from one of the booths, and that was one of them is Spookfest themed, glow in the dark orange with black numbers on it, and then a fun green and blue set. So we'll be rolling those.
Hell yeah.
Soon. And then most importantly, I played Sonic Superstars today.
Oh.
I bought the Switch version yesterday, and yeah.
Do you have any thoughts to share, or would you rather share those later?
Rate it on a scale from 1 to 10 right now.
From 1 to 10?
No, don't rate it.
Yes.
No, don't rate it.
He asked me to rate it yesterday, and I haven't even played it. And I said 7 out of 10.
You know, that's a really good rating.
It's a classic.
That's a classic.
I haven't played it yet.
Classic, haven't played it yet. 7 out of 10.
Exactly.
Yeah. I suspect we might do a full Sonic Superstars / Super Mario Wonder podcast episode at some point as a fun,
most likely,
as a fun ep. So I'll hold off. I'll say, and this is what I said on our Discord. It felt better when I turned the sensitivity all the way up. It's like, that's how like it just started to feel better. I'm playing the Switch version because one, my laptop sucks, and also it sounds like they fucked the Steam release for that. Go figure.
Yeah, I heard.
Yay.
In order to play multiplayer, you need an Epic Games account.
Cool. 2, if we're gonna play multiplayer, I'm not paying for PlayStation Plus. So.
Oh yeah, fair.
Yeah, there's that.
I was gonna be getting it on Switch mostly because like that's where all of my 2D Sonic games are. Like I have Sonic Mania on that. I have Sonic Origins on that, so I'm like, I may as well just get Superstars on that too.
Yeah, and as far as single player goes, it runs well on the Switch. Like, I haven't had any performance issues. It doesn't look awful in that case. So yeah, it'll work really well on the Switch, I feel. We'll see about multiplayer. I've heard it's a chaotic mess for multiplayer, at least for 4-player. But we'll see.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll see how 3 players handle it.
Yeah, we'll see that. I've been playing as Knuckles, and that's been fun. Yeah. And then, yeah,
Nice.
The only other thing I've really done is played a bit more Legend of Nayuta. I think I only have the epilogue final boss to go through. So I finished up all of the extra levels you unlock and the redux of bosses, the first 4 bosses. So yeah, all I have to do is the true final boss, and then I'll have beaten that game.
All right.
Yeah.
We got any other closing statements, or are we all set to sign out for tonight?
Nope.
Spookfest.
My day tomorrow's gonna suck, so we're gonna leave now. Bye.
All right. We will catch you in our next episode, which we haven't decided yet, so join our Discord so you find that out. Have a good one. Thank you for listening in. Bye-bye.
Happy Spookfest. Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Gaming Stooges Talks podcast. If you enjoyed us, consider subscribing to our podcast RSS feed, or follow us on youtube.com/GamingStooges and twitch.tv/GamingStooges for more gaming content. If you would like to chat with us, join our Discord. The link can be found in the episode description. We also want to thank all of our Patreon supporters. Your continued support means a lot to us. Not already one? Please take a look at what we have to offer anyone who becomes a patron at patreon.com/GamingStooges. See you next time!